Conservatives are shouting that we need to deport all illegals. I've got a proposal of my own. Why don't we take a good look in the mirror and face the hard truth that the United States is responsible for the problems we're dealing with today? Alex in the command center, take it away.
Well, Governor, the president of Honduras, Juan Hernandez, made headlines for linking the United States drug policy to the recent surge in Central American immigrants in our southern states. So we thought it was prime time for us at Off the Grid to look into the effects of our so-called war on drugs. The Honduran president himself said the root cause is that the United States and Colombia carried out big operations in the fight against drugs. Then Mexico did it. He added, "This is creating a serious problem for us that sparked this migration." So what do you make of that, Governor?
Well, I think he's absolutely correct. I think the Honduran president is totally correct. The war on drugs is responsible for this migration because there's been so much killing over it. You've got all these children, they don't have parents anymore. They may have a relative up here in the United States, so they run away to get here to be safe. We shouldn't be looking at them as illegal immigrants. We should be looking at them in a different attitude. We should be treating these kids like refugees because they are refugees running from the United States' war on drugs.
Well, as Honduran President Juan Hernandez pointed out, our drug policy here at home is closely intertwined with the border crisis. First, let's follow the money trail. Billionaire philanthropist Sir Richard Branson wrote an op-ed for CNN converting our country's drug policy into dollar amounts. The US has spent roughly $1 trillion in the war on drugs. 2, if illegal drugs were taxed at the rate similar to cigarettes and booze, our government would yield $46.7 billion in tax revenue. 3, a Cato study revealed legalizing drugs would save the US $41 billion a year in enforcing drug laws. $25 billion would go to state and local governments. $15 billion would go to the Fed.
We're supposed to be the United States of America, home of the brave, land of the free. Part of freedom is the freedom to be stupid. But let me state this: why should it be illegal for you in the privacy of your own home, if you don't harm anybody? Shouldn't you be able to take and do anything you want in a free country?
Governor, for our final number, according to drugpolicy.org, the annual amount the U.S. government spends on the war on drugs is, do you want to take a stab at this one, Governor?
100 billion.
51 billion.
51 billion, a little high. Okay, so that means if we spend 51 billion and we could tax and make 49 or 46 billion, that's almost $100 billion swing. How stupid do we have to be? We live in a free society, and it's time to say, you know what? We need to be responsible for ourselves. And if people want to do drugs and they don't harm anybody else, what in the hell is wrong with that?
And what could our state and federal governments do with all this money?
What couldn't they do with it all? They could provide it for education, to smarten people up not to do drugs. The thing people need to remember is it's a medical issue. And for some reason, our society in America has made it a criminal issue. Addiction's medical. You can be addicted to food. You can be addicted to Hostess Twinkies. If you magically took away coffee tomorrow, you would have murders in America because people couldn't get their morning Java caffeine fix. Caffeine's a drug, speeds you up, makes you hyper. That can't be that good for you all the time. There's a yin and a yang to that too. Drugs are among us. And what now? We're picking winners and losers? Well, it's okay, you can do this drug, but this drug here, no. It's okay to go get shit-faced drunk and behave like a freaking idiot. Fine, no problem. But you who smokes pot and sits in the corner all night and doesn't bother a soul listening to Jimi Hendrix, that's against the law. And then, of course, Alex, we could switch to my favorite, tobacco, where I'll end it like this. Tobacco, if you use it correctly, the end result is death. And that's legal?
Well, not only that, the US is the leading nation in illegal drug use. Americans spend $40.6 billion a year on marijuana, $28.3 billion on cocaine, $27 billion on heroin, and $13 billion on meth. Brings us to a total of $100 billion annually.
So clearly there's a market here. Clearly there are people who want to do drugs, whether they're legal drugs, illegal or legal or not. Let me put it this way. How does one commit a crime against oneself? And what you put into your body is your business. It's not anybody else's. And if you want to be stupid, again, stupidity's part of freedom.
Well, the nonprofit organization, the International Crisis Group, did a study in June on the link between our government and illegal immigration. Its results, though not surprising, clarify this direct relationship. We already reported that the competition between criminals over drug routes have made Guatemala and Honduras two of the deadliest countries in the world. Drug traffickers override any sort of police force. In essence, they are the police. The reports...
Let me interject, Alex. My mother, who passed away a number of years ago, she lived through prohibition of alcohol. She lived through that, where they took away alcohol. And she stated, you know what? This drug war is identical to the prohibition of alcohol. All we're doing is making criminals rich and powerful. People are going to use the drugs. They're going to do it. Well, the minute you make them illegal, then they're going to be provided by criminals and the criminal element. If you bring them above board, why then it's a liquor store, isn't it? Go ahead, Alex.
Well, this report states that the border corridor includes hotly contested routes for transporting drugs to the U.S. traffickers with their wealth and firepower, and dominates some portions. On both sides of the Honduras-Guatemala border, violence, lawlessness, and corruption are rampant and poverty rates are high. So I bet you know where these traffickers are getting their guns, Governor.
Oh, boy. Now that's a tough one. Where would a trafficker get weapons from? Let's see. Let me venture a wild guess. The United States of America?
That's right. Every year, the U.S. State Department's military assistance releases a report that's available for all our vigilant viewers to see at pmddtc.state.gov. In 2012, the State Department made roughly $44.28 billion in arms shipments to 173 nations that fiscal year.
I think all those gun control people should put their focus on the U.S. government, the largest gun dealer in the world, and the U.S. government should show us by example. Stop selling the guns. If you don't sell them, no one can buy them, can they?
Do you want to guess which nations are on that State Department list?
I'll bet you it's right down where the drug war is happening.
It's the very same countries from which these migrant children are coming from.
Yes. So what it tells me is at the top of our off the grid today, this immigration we have caused ourselves by the idiotic war on drugs. If we end that, the immigration problem will also reach a conclusion.
Well, Honduras, which in 2013 alone, the State Department approved an authorized value, $13 million in defense articles and services. Guatemala with an authorized value of over $6 million, and El Salvador with an authorized value of over $1 million.
See, we want the drug war to go on. We want it so we can keep selling those weapons and making that money. Our elected Democrats and Republicans want this drug war to keep going. They'll keep up with the prohibition because it all puts money into their pockets.
But we digress. Let's go back to our drug policy. To further show proof that legalizing recreational drug use could really hurt the cartel industry, the Mexican Competitiveness Institute recently did a study showing that the legalization of marijuana in Colorado, Oregon, and Washington could cut Mexican drug cartels' earnings from traffic to the U.S. by as much as 30%. That would cut their profits by $1.8 billion. So, Governor, imagine if it was legalized in all 50 states.
All I got to say is thank goodness Colorado and Washington have led the way. It's time for the other 48 to follow suit. The hell with the federal government. Let's do it at the state level. The feds will have to go along with it if all the states do it. Come on, governors, lead the way. Do something positive. Put your ass out on the line and do the right thing rather than the political thing.
Well, there's also one example we could follow, and that's Portugal. That's right, Portugal, the tiny European country that can fit snugly inside the state of Nevada. 10 years ago, Portugal decriminalized all drugs. The results? Well, I think you'll find them pretty impressive, Governor. Drug use of all kinds has declined in Portugal. Lifetime use among 7th to 9th graders fell from 14.01% to 10.6%. HIV infection rates among drug users fell by an incredible 17%, and drug-related deaths were reduced by more than half.
So that actually runs directly in the face of what our government tells us as to why we're fighting the war on drugs. What more do we need than to see there clearly when legalization happens, drug usage goes down, not up.
Well, fortunately for Portugal, the country isn't facing the same self-inflicted immigration crisis that the United States is. What do you think, Governor?
You know, because obviously they're not facing it because they've legalized. Why isn't this being portrayed by our mainstream media? Why aren't we trumpeting that? Why isn't our mainstream media showing Portugal as the example? Let's legalize, let's put this behind us, let's turn America back into a country that stands for freedom. Again, how can you commit a crime against yourself? And that's what taking drugs is. You're using them, so you're committing a crime against yourself. That's it for today. Keep the conversation going online at the websites below, and remember, stay vigilant.
And Colombia carried out big operations in the fight against drugs. Then Mexico did it. He added, "This is creating a serious problem for us that sparked this migration." So what do you make of that, Governor?
Well, I think he's absolutely correct. I think the Honduran president is totally correct. The war on drugs is responsible for this migration because there's been so much killing over it. You've got all these children, they don't have...
Here at home is closely intertwined with the border crisis. First, let's follow the money trail. Billionaire philanthropist Sir Richard Branson wrote an op-ed for CNN converting our country's drug policy into dollar amounts. The US has spent roughly $1 trillion in the war on drugs. 2, if illegal drugs were taxed at the rate similar to cigarettes and booze, our government would yield 46.6.
Conservatives are shouting that we need to deport all illegals. I've got a proposal of my own. Why don't we take a good look in the mirror and face the hard truth that the United States is responsible for the problems we're dealing with today? Parents anymore, they may have a relative up here in the United States, so they run away to get here to be safe. We shouldn't be looking at them as illegal immigrants. We should be looking at them in a different attitude. We should be treating these kids like refugees because they are refugees running from the United States' war on drugs.
Well, as Honduran President Juan Hernandez pointed out, our drug policy here...
Alex in the command center, take it away.
Well, Governor, the president of Honduras, Juan Hernandez, made headlines for linking the United States' drug policy to the recent surge in Central American immigrants in our southern states. So we thought it was prime time for us at Off the Grid to look into the effects of our so-called war on drugs. The Honduran president himself said the root cause is that the United States